Before the first note was played, before Simon Cowell raised an eyebrow, before the audience had any idea what was coming, two young men from a small town in the Philippines walked onto the biggest stage in America carrying nothing but acoustic guitars, nervous smiles, and a dream nobody in that room believed in yet. This wasn't supposed to work. Country music didn't belong to them. Or so everyone thought. But what happened next would shock Simon Cowell, silence the skeptics, and remind the world that music has no borders. If you love powerful stories like this, make sure you subscribe right now, because stories like this deserve to be heard. They stood side by side under the blazing lights of America's Got Talent, the kind of lights that expose every fear you try to hide. The taller one adjusted his guitar strap, his fingers trembling slightly. The other inhaled deeply, staring out at an audience that felt like an ocean. Back home, they were just two friends who played music after work, sang for neighbors, and shared dreams nobody took seriously. Here, they were about to be judged by the most brutally honest panel in television history. When Terry Crews asked their names, their voices carried accents shaped by islands thousands of miles away. They introduced themselves as a Filipino duo who loved country music. The audience murmured. Some smiled politely. Others looked confused. Country music. From the Philippines. Simon leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, his face unreadable. He had seen thousands of auditions, heard countless promises, and learned to spot disaster before it happened. This, he thought, might be one of those moments. Simon asked the question everyone was thinking. Why country music? The shorter singer smiled, a little shy, and explained that country music told stories. Stories about struggle, family, loss, hope, and home. Stories that felt exactly like their own lives, even if those stories were born thousands of miles away in American soil. He talked about growing up poor, about listening to scratched CDs of Johnny Cash and Garth Brooks borrowed from a neighbor who worked overseas. He talked about learning English through lyrics, about singing songs he barely understood at first but felt deeply in his heart. The audience grew quieter. Then came the first twist. Simon interrupted. He warned them gently but firmly. This show is tough. America is tough. Country music fans are tough. He asked if they were sure this was the right choice. The duo looked at each other, a silent conversation passing between them. They nodded. This was their moment. They didn't come this far to play it safe. They counted in. The first chord rang out clean and confident, echoing through the theater. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud, but it was honest. When the first voice came in, rich and warm, something shifted in the room. The accent was still there, but the soul was unmistakable. This was country. Pure, raw, and real. People leaned forward. The second voice joined in harmony, tighter and smoother than anyone expected. The blend was effortless, the kind you only get from years of singing together on broken porches and dusty roads. The lyrics spoke of leaving home, of chasing dreams across oceans, of carrying your roots wherever you go. Suddenly, this wasn't just a song. It was their story. And somehow, it was America's story too. Simon's expression changed. Halfway through the song, the taller singer closed his eyes. His voice cracked just slightly on a high note, not from lack of skill, but from emotion. He remembered his father, a farmer who told him music was a hobby, not a future. He remembered his mother crying quietly when he told her he was flying to America with no guarantees. That crack in his voice didn't weaken the performance. It made it human. The audience began to clap along. Another twist came when the duo dropped into a stripped-down bridge, just vocals and a single guitar. No tricks. No effects. Just two voices filling the space. The room felt smaller, more intimate. People stopped thinking about where these singers were from and started listening to what they were saying. When the final chord faded, there was a brief second of silence. Then the theater exploded. The audience jumped to their feet, cheering louder than anyone expected. Some people wiped tears from their eyes. Terry Crews stood backstage, hands over his mouth. The judges looked at each other, surprised. Simon Cowell didn't speak right away. That pause felt longer than the song itself. Finally, Simon leaned forward and smiled. He admitted he was skeptical. He admitted he didn't expect that. He said what mattered wasn't where they came from, but whether they made him feel something. And they did. He called it one of the most unexpected and authentic country performances he'd heard on that stage. That alone would have been enough. But the story didn't end there. Backstage, the duo hugged, laughing and crying at the same time. They thought they had peaked. They thought this moment would be the highlight of their lives. They were wrong. As the show aired, something incredible happened online. Country music fans across America started sharing the clip. Comments poured in from Texas, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Kentucky. People said they reminded them why they fell in love with country music in the first place. Veterans, truck drivers, farmers, single moms, all saying the same thing. This feels real. Then came the backlash. Some critics said they were a gimmick. Others said country music should stay American. The duo saw the comments. They felt the sting. Doubt crept back in. Were they out of place? Did they cross a line? This led to the biggest twist of all. In the next round, instead of playing it safe, they doubled down. They wrote an original country song. Not about America, not about the Philippines, but about belonging nowhere and everywhere at the same time. About being told you don't fit and singing anyway. Simon listened closely. When they finished, he stood up. He said this is what the show is about. Taking risks, breaking rules, telling the truth. He told them they didn't just shock him. They changed his mind. The duo went on to become one of the most talked about acts of the season. Win or lose, their lives were already different. They went from singing on street corners to selling out small venues. They inspired kids back home who never believed their voices mattered on a global stage. Their story wasn't about country music. It was about courage. It was about carrying your roots with you, no matter how far you go. And it was about proving that sometimes, the most American thing you can do is believe in a dream, even when no one else does. If this story moved you, inspired you, or surprised you, make sure you subscribe to this channel right now for more powerful, real-life stories that cross borders and touch hearts. And now tell me, from which part of the country are you watching this video?